Thank you, Apollo. For starters, I think this is a right step in the right direction, and I would like to commend the Ministry of ICT and the NITA for coming up with this initiative and making sure that the internet the internet cost is reduced. But to answer your question, to a larger extent, I think this will benefit the government mostly, because it will enable the government to deliver the services to the common person, umuntu wa wansi, effectively. Reason being, as you said, the government recognizes ICT as the factor for the social and economic development of the country. And if you check initiatives and strategies like the 2040 Digital Vision and the Third National Development Plan, they both recognize ICT as a fulcrum for the development and of the country in general. But I think the reason why I say to the larger extent is because the government a few years ago came up with a project that is known as the National Backbone Infrastructure, or NBI. And under this project, the main motive was to connect as many as MDAs as possible. MDA stands for ministries, departments, and other government agencies. So by doing so, it will enable the government to deliver services to the common person. And this means the person who is in Kalamoja won't have to incur costs of transport to come back to move from Kalamoja to Kampala, because they can access e-services from wherever they are. So it's a step in the right direction, and I commend the government for this initiative. Although the questions are still there, because if you look at the first phase of the implementation of the NBI project, the price was approximately $1,200 per MBs per second per month, and right now it is $35 per MBs per second per month. Although the common person might think that it might benefit him or her directly, it might not. But for institutions like hospitals, universities, they will benefit from it, and maybe a person who uses a public Wi-Fi on the government headquarters will also benefit from this. And the other thing I would like to add on that is that the fact that this move will act as a pace setter for other telecom companies who provide internet to copy from the government and try as much as possible to on the internet.
Let's go straight to the final cost after this government move. $35 per megabyte per second per month. Do you think that cost is actually affordable in terms of consumer? I mean, do you in all find it affordable to a local consumer of internet services?
No, I don't think it's because if you look at $35 per month per MBs per second per month, it doesn't necessarily mean that a person has to pay $35 to use just 1 MB of data per second. But the good thing is you have added the other code, the other sentence of per month, because it is measured throughout the month, not just the daily consumption of the person. And like I said, it will set, this move will set a bar for other telecom companies to try as much as possible to lower the prices of the internet. And as you know, as a country, Uganda, we still have challenges with that, because we are a landlocked country, and we purchase, in most cases, we purchase data from countries like Kenya and Tanzania, which are closer to the coast, and they have access to the sea cables. So by this latest government initiative, I think, like I said, it will become a trendsetter for ISPs to also cut down the cost of the internet, which is consumed by the common person, umuntu wa wansi.
Quickly, can you tell us setting the cost at $35 per megabyte per second per unit per month. That is the cost from to access the national backbone in case of these private service providers. That, I think, means that the private service providers will also add on something as profit, and possibly will be buying data and internet at a higher cost. Is it true or not?
I don't think, I think if there is a public and a private partnership, that might be possible. Because remember, the government has already laid down the infrastructure through the NBI project. So I believe the private sector can collaborate with the government and to purchase some of this internet through the government. But when it comes to the private sector itself, for instance, telecom companies like MTN and Airtel, in most cases they usually buy internet by themselves. They don't rely on the government to get the internet to the common person, to the consumer on the ground.
So it may not directly be the same cost on the side of the local consumer. Okay, let's finally look at let's finally look at what else can be done to cut down the cost of internet and ensure there is cheaper and accessible internet everywhere. What do you think, or what could be your recommendations as an expert on what can be done?
Yes, thank you. I think a lot has to be done, considering the fact that the internet penetration rate, according to the report by the World Bank of 2022, the internet penetration rate in Uganda stands at approximately 24.6%, and that translates to only 11.7 million Ugandans on the internet. Although the report by UCC says otherwise, but this still is a low percentage. And this can be attributed to a lot of facts. The first one is the fact that the import duties are high for digital devices and digital services. So that means for a person who wants to buy maybe a smartphone from China and wants to bring it to the Ugandan market. For instance, a smartphone in China might be at around 50,000 Ugandan shillings. But by the time it hits the Ugandan market, it can be at around 250,000 Ugandan shillings. So that is 5 times more. So a lot has to be done, and I think the first thing that the government has to do is first is to reduce on the import duties and taxes that are charged on digital devices, and this will include on the number of people who have smartphones, and this will call on for people to use the internet. If you realize, if you look at regions that are remote like Nakapilipiriti, like Karamoja, that are far away from Kampala, they have few communications mass. The reason being is that ISPs, all internet service providers like Airtel and MTN, find it hard to install communication masts in these regions because there is a low market, there is a low demand for internet. So by reducing the prices of the smartphones, it will trickle down to an increase in the internet usage, and this goes back to the fact that the government still has to reduce on the taxes that are charged on digital devices. And the other move that the government can do is it should increase budget allocations for the ICT sector. Honestly, the ICT sector receives one of the lowest budget allocations if you look at the past financial years. So by doing so, it will increase the more projects in the ICT, and more infrastructure will be laid that will be used by the people on the ground. Then thirdly, I think the government needs to find ways to regulate competition, especially in the ISP, internet service provider market. If you look at most of the internet service providers like Vodafone, Smart, right now we have Laika, they face difficulties competing with giant ISPs like Airtel and MTN. So the government should find ways to regulate this, and this will enable internet accessibility and at a cheaper cost, cheaper prices. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christopher Karema. Thank you so much for your time. It was good to deliberate on this particular